Hey guys, I just want to say thanks for 200 subs. And honestly, how do these YouTubers run out of content? I'm getting so many suggestions with only 200 subs that I can't imagine running out of content. So these other YouTubers must be a little bit lazy, is what I'm guessing. So if you enjoy the video, please subscribe and see you guys. Okay, we're going to be going over Unending Despair, which is quite an interesting item. Very interesting item. So when we were going through this really long form video kind of covering all of the items that I felt like were viable on tank supports and which ones aren't, Unending Despair came up as an item that I hadn't really looked into much. As you know, it's a little bit of a newer item, and I don't know if it's been changed or for whatever reason I wasn't that interested in looking into it. Probably from a Braum player's perspective, it just didn't seem like an item that would be very good on Braum. And that may still be the case because Braum's not really the type of support champion that goes in. Really, in the last video, I was trying to explain why I think that Zeke's and Trailblazer aren't such viable options on support, which is obviously like kind of controversial because they're, you know, 2 out of like 4 tank support items that Riot's specifically designed as tank support items, and they're, you know, very much well built and stuff like that all the time. And there are certain support champions, right, that can make them work, like we talked about last time, at least with Zeke's on like a Rel or a Rakan. But for a lot of champions, I just don't think they're worth it. And then we were looking into Unending Despair because, you know how my videos go. I end up rambling for an hour about all the details about all the items. And so we ended up looking into the fact that I didn't really, you know, do the same kind of intensive dive into Unending Despair as I had done on some of the other items. And so, you know, we started doing a little bit of math live in the video last time, and we found some things out. So I've kind of summarized it a little bit here, which was really interesting, is that with Unending Despair, you know, at level 9, after assuming the 50% you know, reduction from resistances and stuff like that, you're going to deal 20 magic damage every 5 seconds to each champion that you hit, plus 3% of your bonus HP. Even if you're buying this item as a first item, and keep in mind this is an item that you can totally buy second, third, it makes sense to do so because you benefit from having more bonus HP before you buy it. But even if you buy the item first, which is not a good scenario for the item, you'd still have around 500 bonus HP because the item gives you 400 bonus HP, and then you can easily have 100 from your runes or from other things. And at 500 bonus HP, that's an additional 15 damage or 7.5 after resistances for a total of 27.5 magic damage. So this is at level 9, even if you're building the item first item. You heal for 250% of the damage that you deal post-mitigation. We're already dealing in post-mitigation numbers. So you'd end up healing for 2.5 times that 27.5 magic damage, which is 68.75 healing. That's a total of 96.25 damage and healing as a first item, only hitting one target one singular time. And keep in mind that this is going to go off every 5 seconds. And you're going to be able to hit multiple targets potentially as well, hopefully. So, you know, that's quite big because we're not really, when we're looking at nearly 100 in terms of the healing and the damage value, that's quite a lot because we're talking about over a 5 second, you know, one pulse onto one person. So now all of a sudden, if we're, you know, hitting one target 3 times over a 15-second fight, you'd get around 300 damage, and, you know, roughly we're rounding up to 100 here, so it would be a little bit less than this, but about 300 in value, which is getting pretty close to potentially being in line with some other items that we'd look at, such as, you know, Redemption, Locket, Knight's Vow, and some of these other good tank support items. At 2 targets, you know, so this is an example where we're hitting more than just one, right? So now we're doing the same, you know, 3 pulses of the item over a 15-second fight, but you're hitting 2 targets each time. You get 600 in value, which is quite large, obviously, compared to those other support items. At 2 targets, 2 times, so this is a more middling scenario, so this is over only a 10-second fight and you're only hitting 2 people, you'd get around 400 in value, making it totally decent compared to our other items, which we said we're providing around 360 a fight. Your lockets, your redemption, your knight's vow, which are very traditional kind of support items, and then also including other tank items that we looked into, such as rookern and frozen heart, and abyssal mask and stuff like that in the right scenario, are all going to be doing around the same thing here. So Unending Despair, I think, is actually viable on tank supports, especially if you're the type of champion that is really, in the middle of a fight and potentially getting this off one time on 5 people. Really, you can think about this as, so 2 targets on and hitting them both twice is like 4 procs of the item. This is like 2 targets 3 times would be 6 procs of the item. So you think about how many procs of the item you're getting. Even if you just hit all 5 of the people on the enemy team one time, that's 5 procs of the item. So that's very good. In a scenario like that, you would outperform. It's about 100 per. It's about 100 per proc. So to get to that 360 break-even point we talked about with those other items, if you're getting like an average of 3.5 procs a fight, which would be like hitting 3 to 4 people one time, or hitting, it'd be like 1.5 to 1.75 people twice, right? Something like that. So hitting 1 or 2 people 2 or 3 times, you're going to get the same value that you would from these other items. So it's definitely viable. It's even potentially viable, which is crazy, on a champion like Braum, who you wouldn't, I don't think that it's great on Braum because you're not going to be in there, hitting it on 5 people most of the time. But even if we're in this scenario where we're just hitting one target, over 15 seconds 3 times, it's still pretty good. So that's quite interesting. And then, of course, this is, and a lot of these other items, we've assumed really good scenarios for it, right? This is assuming that you only have, 500 bonus HP because you're building it as a first item. So imagine, right, that instead of 500 bonus HP, this is 1,000 bonus HP or 1,500. You're building it, second, third, fourth. All of a sudden, you're doubling this number. So now you're getting an extra 7.5 magic damage, and you're also getting 2.5 times that. So that would be 7.5 magic damage times 2.5 would be 7.5 magic damage plus 18.75. So at 1,000 bonus HP, you'd be getting an extra 26 damage and healing, 26.25 damage and healing per proc. So this would be pushing us well above 100. So it'd be 122.5 per proc. So now at only 3 procs of the item, we're at 360. So we're really at a place where, 2 pretty hefty health items in, or maybe so this would be as a second item if you were building like a real tank item first with like 400 HP. Or if you're building a 200 or 300 HP more support tank item, maybe one that's a little bit cheaper, as a third item, this would be providing the same amount of value as like a locket or redemption would, with only, and all those other good items we talked about, with only 3 procs of the item. And so again, that could be just one time jumping in and having it go off on 3 people who are near you. It could be one person, that you're peeling back 3 times, and it's still providing you very similar value to locket and redemption. Now, there's a lot of other considerations like we've talked about before. So obviously, if you were building this on Braum and just getting the 360 value from it, is it that good? It's not that good because it's not quite that good, because if you're just hitting it on the one person every time or whatever we've talked about before, it's just healing you a bunch of HP, and it's not like a locket where it could like bait people in and then use it all at once on an important ally. So that's a little bit different. But definitely, if you're a champion who is in the thick of it, I mean, you start to look at what you could be getting from this item if you're hitting 3 people 3 times in a fight. At 9 procs of the item, we're talking about absolutely insane value that you can't get from any of these other items. We're seeing numbers like 1,000 per fight. You know, and that's like a possible, very very possible scenario if you're a tank support who's really in those. So Unending Despair is definitely a viable tank support item. It's going to be much better on engaged support champions that are really in the middle of a fight. Think of like a Mumu, a Leona, an Alistar, champions like that, maybe a Rel, maybe a Rookern, although they have some other good items to build, as we talked about, including even some of these items that most tank support champions can't build, like Zeke's and stuff like that. If you're interested in like why I put some of these items in these categories and you hadn't seen the last video, go check that one out. And I'm going to be running some support games to kind of test out the item, see how it's going in game. I'm probably going to play a Mumu, but maybe we'll try it on some other champions. And I think I'm going to be building it second item. I don't think it, even though there's a lot of, I'm pretty hyped about the item because of how good it has the potential of being, I don't think that it benefits from being built first. So I'll definitely look into some builds where I try to fit it in like second or third and see how it does. And so, once I get an interesting game and I've played and seen how it performs in game, I'll come back with another video on Unending Despair and how it's actually performing in game. Until then, good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.